Japan has more people over the age of 100 than anywhere else in the world.
And most people chalk that up to also having one of the lowest obesity rates in the world, at only 4.3% of Japanese people being obese.
Since I landed in Japan, I was surrounded with ramen shops, sushi bars, and street food, and I wanted to know how Japanese people stay so thin. So I did some research and I landed on these 10 reasons. The 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule, also known as Harahachibu, means that you eat until you're 80% full. This rule comes from Okinawa, but is practiced across Japan and prevents overeating.
This is done before the meal even begins. You decide on how much food would make you 80% full, and then cook or order that much. Which leads me to point number 2.
Eating slow.
The Japanese understand when they're 80% full because they eat slowly.
A 2017 study by Kyushu University in Japan found that slower eaters are less likely to become obese than fast eaters. Eating is a deliberate process in Japan rather than a mindless one.
Japan has more Michelin-starred restaurants than any other country in the world. This shows you how they feel like food is something to be enjoyed rather than just sustenance to be scarfed down.
Portion sizes. Dishes in Japan are substantially smaller than in North America and much of Europe.
Having many small plates is much more common. Take for example this meal I had, yakitori.
Skewers made of fish, beef, or chicken, ordered by the each or up to 20 at a time. To continue ordering until you're full is more than acceptable.
These small plates make it substantially easier to follow the previously mentioned 80-20 rule.
On top of this, even if you get a big meal like ramen, much of the meal is filler like broth or rice. Not wasting food, or motene.
This concept seems like it would work against your waistline, but it doesn't for one big reason. The stigma behind wasting food prevents people from ordering or making too much. This attitude keeps waistlines a lot slimmer than in other countries where wasting food isn't as big of a deal, or where take-home containers are much more common.
Eating 3 meals a day.
Okay, so this is something that's seen all over the world. Except in Japan, prescribed eating times are stuck to much more religiously, with little to no snacking in between. Here, restaurants open from 11 to 2 for lunch, and then reopen at 5 for dinner time, with very few exceptions. This is because few people eat outside of these prescribed times. Restaurants could be dead right before 12, and then the second lunchtime comes around, they're absolutely packed.
Snack aisles in grocery stores are small, and even though Japan has millions of vending machines, few have bags of chips or chocolate bars.
Each meal is well-rounded, consisting of both rice and a protein, from breakfast to dinner.
Japanese culture.
Japanese people and Japanese culture is much more about fitting in than in Europe or North America. The peer pressure to stick to these rules is quite high. People here don't want to be looked down upon because of their eating habits. They prefer to fit in and follow cultural norms and rules instead. In America and Europe, on the other hand, individuality reigns supreme. The idea of not judging someone else's eating habits and minding your own plate is much more common in North America, especially in the 21st century, leading many in North America to eat as much or as little as they see fit. These 6 attitudes of Japanese eating culture all help control the mentality of eating, as opposed to the physical side of health. The last 4 reasons why Japanese people stay so thin is much more about the physical side of things.
Types of food. Fish and chicken are norms for protein in Japan. These leaner meats are easier to digest with less fat and calories than beef or pork. Even though white rice is not considered the healthiest grain, sticky rice finds its way into almost every meal.
This combination of food leads to a lower average calorie intake among Japanese people than their North American counterparts.
With an average of 2,705 calories for Japanese versus 3,782 for Americans. Food education. In Japan, food education is standard in school with lessons on cooking at home and eating healthy.
This leads to more Japanese people making healthier meals at home, as well as making informed decisions when they eat out.
Fast food isn't fast food. McDonald's, KFC, and Subway all exist in Japan,
and they do see their fair share of customers. However, most Japanese people see this as a treat rather than a standard fast food option like North Americans do.
In Japan, if you're in need of a quick meal, something like a ramen shop is much more common. It's food served within minutes, eaten quickly at a bar by yourself.
These fast food options often have a machine to order on, or a chef waiting at attention the moment you sit down, making them just as fast, if not faster, than most standard American fast food joints.
These types of fast food are substantially healthier than big fast food chains common in North America, lacking the preservatives, salt, and fat that we all think of when we eat a Big Mac.
The final, and likely most important reason Japanese people are so thin is because of what I'm doing right now, walking. Japanese people on average walk more steps in a day than almost any other country in the world.
Japanese people walk about 6,000 steps per day on average compared to the 4,800 a day the average American walks. Walking to work, to the subway, or the grocery store is just the way of life in Japan. Few people own a car, and even if they do, they likely still walk and take the subway for most of their regular activities.
This walking culture, on top of everything else already discussed, is the reason why Japan is so thin. And as a bonus reason, I'm sure the heat of the summer really helps Japanese people shed a few extra pounds. It gets extremely hot and humid here, and I'm sure everyone just sweats it all out. But that's it for today, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, consider liking, subscribing, but until next time, we'll see ya.